Hello and welcome to our little corner of the world. It's David and Irma here. I think that's got like the right around. Well, how's your bank holiday is 2/3 of the way through, and so is ours.
Mm-hmm.
Fun enough,
right.
And it's been nice weather, hasn't it? It's been consistent nice weather.
Very relaxing weather, yeah.
We saw some rain from afar the other day, didn't we? Because there was this cloud, and it had these grey streaks coming down from it. I said to Irma, "What's that?" Because I didn't study, meteorology and all that kind of thing. It was rain.
Well, you don't have to study meteorology. When you're a driver and you see this kind of strikes coming from a cloud, it means it's rain somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've never seen that on my bicycle. That's
and we also
all I
got
can
to see a
say.
rainbow.
We did. And hello to Doug. It's very nice of Doug to join us this evening. Hope you're good and well, sir, and that the old bank holiday is just flying by. If you're not too quickly, so you don't enjoy it. But we've had a lovely old time, and we're self-isolating, aren't we, and all that, and keeping our whatever it is social thing. And we went into the old supermarket, and we were kind of ninjaing, and we went in separately because probably they only allow one at a time. I'm not sure. But we were a bit sneaky and we sneaked up in the queue. Don't do that. That's naughty. Yeah, and then we were at the checkout rather longer than I would have wanted because I pressed the red button and da-da-da. Hello to Sarah and hello to Michael. Welcome along to our little Sunday night get-together at our home where we're going to do the usual bit of banter and stuff and say bad things about Dominic Cummings. And hello, Cal. It's lovely that you're able to join us. How are you? I hope you're good. Do let us know in the old comments. It's been a while, isn't it? And it's lovely to have Cal's company on the thing.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
So there's kind of good news and bad news in this first thing that I picked up on because the Professor Adrian Hill, who's heading up this Oxford University research project to develop a vaccine against coronavirus, says that coronavirus is disappearing so quickly that he's only got a 50% chance of testing this thing because what they'll have to do, is inoculate 1,000 people or something and then see how many of them catch it. But the rates are falling so slowly, so fast, that there won't be enough people with the virus to test the vaccine because nobody will have a chance of catching it. So I'm sure that if the COVIDiots go out and about shaking hands and doing all sorts of silly things that we've seen, that in a month or two they will have enough cases to test it on. But let's hope it works. So there's an irony there, isn't it? Crusher, rock hard, rock heavy, and rock animal. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. So we're talking about a bit of an irony with the Oxford vaccine that's being developed and much touted, and AstraZeneca's standing by to make millions of doses and so forth. And now there aren't enough of us ill in the community for them to test it properly. I mean, how insane is that? But it's insane in a good way, I guess. Which brings us on to some of the background stuff that's been going on recently. The Wuhan laboratory in Wuhan did have some bat coronaviruses, but not COVID-19. But this is according to the director of the institute, who told the Chinese state broadcaster. So you might take that with a pinch of salt, you might not. But let's just assume that they did have this virus in their lab, okay? And it's not a wild stretch of the imagination because all these kind of viruses are close cousins. Are they going to admit it on state TV? Probably not. No. And we wouldn't in England either, if it was being done at Porton Down or something. So I think these stories are non-stories, if you like. The US are doing very badly with their coronavirus. They're opening up for summer. Hello, and they're very close to the milestone of 100,000 people dying from this, which is 3 times worse than us. Every state has relaxed some of its restrictions, partly again because there were idiots with placards standing outside the town hall gates going, "Let us out, you horrible dogs," which is ridiculous because they're trying to save your lives. I mean, it's not often that I stand up for government, is it really? It's not often. I mean, this is probably the first time in my life because they closed down all my favourite radio stations, all of which were broadcasting on boats, and then they made it difficult for me to run my property business by imposing hundreds of bloody unnecessary regulations, and I can't even buy a Max Min thermometer in the B&Q or DIY warehouse because they outlawed those as well. Those very nice mercury ones for that lovely silvery stuff that you can float around the table and play games with, flicking it across the room.
Yeah, I think at the moment it's stuff to do with the economy, isn't it? I was listening to a podcast today from a lovely group of friends, Nicola Cairncross, and she has got closest links with Greece, and Greece is opening the international flights
Yes.
for this summer. So, but it's nothing to do with the health really. It's to do with the actual economy.
Oh dear.
So, a bit tricky situation there.
That's a very, very tricky situation because there's a balance. I mean, well, first of all, you've got people going do Lally because they're stuck at home. That's not good to start with, is it? Really?
Well, we all going to Lally.
Well, I am, and you're very sensible.
And therefore.
We can't possibly comment further, can we?
No.
But you know, these are the things going on here. Well, I've now lost the screen that we're on. Isn't that an extraordinary thing? I hope I didn't close it, in which case I'll reopen it suddenly and start nattering again. That is a possibility, and we're just going to check this.
What?
No, we didn't. So, or maybe we did. I don't know. It's all very very strange here. So let us see if we're on. We'll proceed as if we are. What a very strange thing it is indeed. And just let's continue. Let's imagine that we are. It says that we are, although I can't find us, and so we'll have to sort of pilot this absolutely blindly. What a very, very, very strange. Oh, there it is, and we are on. See, a doddery old fellow to me. A very good evening to Kevin. I lost myself. I lost my way. So clearly I've been out in the sun too much today. Only in the garden, obviously. We were driving around the garden in our car 16 times, and we it's a big garden.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, we are not in as much trouble as a certain fella in government. Now, this Dominic Cummings story, and I'm hoping that Kevin will comment about this a bit more. It's going on and on, isn't it? And Andrew Marr, first of all, we saw Steve Baker MP, we were watching that this morning, just before Andrew Marr, for about 10 minutes laying into Dominic Cummings, because Dominic Cummings is not well liked in government. He's one of these spin doctory types, and nobody likes that. Nobody likes people who are not elected, people who are not civil servants, coming in and running the show. So he's neither employed and has gone up through the channels to run government, nor he's been voted in by the electorate, and he just seems to annoy everybody wherever he goes. I mean, that's just a fact. It's a fact that he seems to. So if his lawyers are watching, I didn't say he does, definitely he's not liked because he's poking his nose into lots of stuff, and he and Boris wanted to shake things up. And whenever you try to shake up the mandarins of Whitehall or something, you're bound to get some pushback. And these guys sit there and they wait for him to put his foot in it. And publicly, everybody's there's a lot of solidarity for him, and the government's been saying a lot of positive stuff. Oh yeah, he only popped out to the shops to buy a cup of tea or something. But privately, the pressure is sort of mounting because, it may be that Dominic Cummings actually made 2 trips up north to support childcare for his daughter, blah, blah, blah. But then why did he go to a beauty spot 30 miles away? And this is this story is not going to go away. And it's very damaging for government when he was the guy who came up with all these slogans, stay home, stay safe, blah, blah. The guy who, first of all, we got... The doctor who was advising it went for a little tryst with his mistress, and there was a newspaper headline today, wasn't there, where Boris said, well, it's not as if he went to his mistress, reminding everybody of the other case. I mean, how dumb can you get?
Well, politics is all about like a ping pong game, isn't it? They throw the ball to each other.
It is, but I think that was a very ill-advised, off-the-tongue statement, because it reminded everybody that the government less than a month ago had another scandal at the heart of the people managing this thing.
Yeah, but I assume that's part of the process, isn't it? To distract your attention to something else and say, So
yeah, it wouldn't distract my attention from what Cummings has done, but it would remind me of what the government's scientific advisor did. So it doesn't work in my case, but maybe I'm a bit
Well, in that case, yes. I totally agree with you. But because if he is policymaker and he's the one that giving the advice, honestly, he should follow. If he's going to do something like that, well, I don't know. Does he have to ask permission to do that?
Firstly, it was the guy who was advising government to do the lockdown. He popped out to see his mistress for an afternoon of sort of light reading, and then Dominic Cummings is going up beauty spotting, 300 miles away from where he's supposed to be. And now we've upped the ante a bit because a retired chemistry teacher called Robin Lees has actually made a complaint to police about Dominic Cummings' alleged, and let's stress it's alleged, a sightseeing trip to a place called Barnard Castle. And the press is just having a field day because, it's as boring for them as it is for us to keep reporting about coronavirus all the time because, there's a lot of other things going on in the news. I hope, again, that the government aren't sliding things under the radar in this 12 weeks, knowing that they wouldn't be reported on. But governments are honourable fellows, aren't they? They would never do anything like that, would they?
Well, in some parts they're giving some garlicky supplements to cows to cover the major environmental enemy, which is the cow gas.
Goodness me, we're going to cure a major environmental enema. I can't believe it. Oh my! Oh, enemy! Enemy. There's me getting all confused again. But what I think there. So. Okay.
Garlic supplements.
Garlic supplements cure, do they? They cure all that methane.
I don't know, they're trying.
I'll have to start taking garlic again then, won't I? Wow. And not so many of the refried beans for me. Yeah. Oh, Carl Belches, I think they're talking about as well. Ooh. Fascinating. 2 different studies, methane content. And in Belches, I don't know whether they mean passing wind when they say Belches. Perhaps it's just the newspaper being polite. But the depths that we plumb on this thing are just you wouldn't believe. But anyways, finishing off just for the time being with Dominic Cummings very briefly, there was a tweet on the official UK Civil Service Twitter account, and it read as follows: arrogant and offensive. Can you imagine having to work with these truth twisters? It came out at 5:53 p.m. today, and was deleted after a while, but not before it had loads and loads and loads of shares, so and messages and that kind of stuff, and a lot of people saw it. And then there was an official government statement that said an unauthorised tweet was posted on a government channel this evening. The post has been removed and we are investigating. But clearly the rumblings are going on there. And who might the 2 twisters have been that they were referring to? Well, it did happen just after Boris Johnson had taken to the skies to promote his right-hand man, so at a press conference, so who knows, huh? Mm-hmm. But the machinations of politics.
Yeah, but once anything is online, out there, that's it, it's there forever.
Well, yeah.
One way or the other, it has been shared,
yeah.
It's been stored somewhere.
Well, you put out a tweet, the newspaper reports it, you delete your tweet, the newspaper's not going to delete their report, are they now? So they're just going to enhance it to say, and embarrassed officials hastily deleted it.
Mm-hmm.
So
long as for the right reasons.
Yeah. So anyway, but let's move on to more interesting stuff. England is going to provide 3,300 homes for the homeless after coronavirus. £160 million of budget has been brought forward to stop people going back on the streets, which I think is absolutely fantastic. A lot of rough sleepers are currently housed in emergency pandemic accommodation, and they don't want to chuck them out. And so this is nearly half of a 4-year rough sleeping budget that was due to be spent, and they're going to bring it forward, which I think is absolutely fantastic. But obviously we're awaiting the details to see how that will plan out. Kevin says he stands by what he said yesterday. Well, good for you, because you just don't let one fella called DC and attack another fella called DC without somebody kind of standing up for him. DC followed the instincts of any parent and made sure that his 4-year-old daughter was safe when his wife was already ill and he fell ill shortly after. He is being a bit of a scapegoat, which I acknowledge. The MSM and Labour don't like him, and the influence he gives Boris. They're still trying to do anything they can to delay or stop Brexit, and indeed Mr Cummings in his plan, for example. One of the things Cummings did is shortly after Boris got in, I think about a week later, he issued an edict to all civil service departments that he wants to join up all the dots with any interactions you have with government websites, so that they're all recorded and stored in some central place to build up a big spooky database of us. And as a great ex-proponent of liberation and freedom and this kind of thing, that's not nice, that's spooky, because you tell the dustbin people that, I don't know, you were throwing away 12 tons of shredded tax returns or something, and then the tax people come on to you next week, why did you shred the tax returns? And you were rushing out to see the dustman, you broke the speed limit, and suddenly these wonderful people in government who only have our best interests at heart all the time, 24/7, believe me, know more about us than they should.
No, it is for sure that sometimes government has to be drastic in taking measures. They are not the nicest people because that's what they do. But however, they are humans at the end of the day.
Who are, the government or the dustman?
The people that we elect.
Oh, the dustman, right. Okay, enough said. Rant over. For now, but I reserve the right to have another one a bit later.
Oh my God.
Well, it's Sunday. Come on, it's bank holiday. Give me a bit of slack and I'll hang myself. Metaphorically, of course. Has the UK, asks The Guardian, has coronavirus changed the UK justice system forever? Because it's certainly changed things, because civil hearings in the main High Court and the Court of Appeal have switched to Zoom, on online platforms where court cases don't have many witnesses and legal arguments, which is fair enough, I guess. And journalists given remote access, and it kind of works. It's certainly not the way things have been done. And the question is, as with all of these things, I've talked to my friend Jay the auctioneer earlier this evening as to whether auctions are going to be different, and whether it'll be people still be people standing in the room holding up their placemats and going bid, and all that kind of thing, and then the hammer coming down, sold to the gentleman with the spiky hair, and see, Luke, there may be some real changes in our society.
Yeah. I remember being to auctions, and the atmosphere is just amazing, because you can see all the different movements. I mean, I like observing people and seeing all the movements, who's going to bid for what, how things begin to build up when their lot is coming up, and it's just, the atmosphere is amazing. So would it be the same? Who knows?
Don't know. I mean, there's that TV show, isn't there? Homes Under the Hammer. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, occasionally.
It's more entertainment than a kind of documented.
Yeah, they make it look simple, but it's not that simple. It's really hugely complicated. It's a lot of emotion at stake. There's a lot of stress, a lot of hopes, lost hopes, because sometimes they end up buying lots that have got issues. Their cash gets
That is the idea of an auction, isn't it? You sell all the dogs, and you put. I mean, if it was good, you'd maybe sell it through another channel. I don't know.
Yeah, but no, you do find you're gonna find auctions, because everybody wants to move on quickly in property. So auctions gonna be the way to go if you really want to churn properties very quickly.
I'm a great fan of auctions as a buyer, because I think you get bargains there, and I think provided you know what you're doing, you can turn these things around. They're things that wouldn't sell easily probably in the estate agent's window if they were posted up there, because that they might be properties that need a bit of attention. They might be properties that need some work on the legals, and so they're not the straightforward properties. Therefore, if you know how to wield a trowel or something, or change a document or something, then it's a bargain for you, because you can do whatever it needs to fix it, and then you can sell it on for a profit. And with property more so than other stuff you'd buy and sell at auctions, there are easily broken telly, and you spend 3 days fixing it, and then you sell it, put it back on the eBay or whatever. You haven't made much money, and your hourly rate is 50p. But with the house, you might get a decent, tidy sum out of it. And there are people who just trade properties, aren't they, all day long? It's what they do for a living. And let's not knock that, because as I was saying earlier this evening in conversation with my friend Jay, compared to, and if there are any estate agents watching tonight, apologies, but compared to the estate agents, the online people really got their act together super quick. And they transferred most of the experience, not the whole experience, because it is nice to see the hammer coming down and the people fidgeting and all that, and try and read the room as you say. But they got enough of it online to make it basically work, which is absolutely fantastic. Which is absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. What would you do if you were to find $1 million?
What would I do?
Mm-hmm. If you were just found it like that, you're just driving along and you just find it.
I would run from the guy with the violin case who started following me and dodge down an alley. What would you do?
Well, what I would do, the same thing as this family in Virginia, USA, done. They were traveling along on the road with the child, and they saw this bag, and they just swerved to avoid it, a collision, and then just checked to see what it was, and there was cash. So they did the right thing as a lecture to their son, and they returned the cash.
Who did they return it to?
To the police.
Well.
And the police investigators believe that Postal Service had been delivering the bags to a local bank, but still a mystery how to ended up in the middle of the road.
Wow.
But they praised them.
Absolutely. But what if it had been?
Thank you.
Okay, but there's a thing here, and I would sort of try.
It's all about honesty, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would try and find the owner, because what if the owner was a drug baron and you've just given his weekly takings to the cops? Then he's going to come after you to thank you in his own inimitable way. So I think.
Oh God, you got to extremes. I think it was a good lesson for the child.
Oh yeah, but we were on a no. Oh, absolutely no. It's always good to do the right thing, but sometimes the right thing isn't the immediately obvious way, because didn't we tell this story once before of how we met some guy on a tube who'd lost his wallet?
Yes, we did.
You see? Yeah, and we didn't hand it in. We gave it back to the bloke, and we're not suggesting in any way that he was not 100% legit, but he was very happy. And if it had gone into the lost property system, it might have got lost.
Yeah, but in that occasion, we had the name of the person. We immediately Googled it.
Well, yeah.
Our son started looking to who he was, and it was just that.
We found him on Facebook.
Yes, we did.
But before we could even message him, there he was. So that was the most extraordinary thing, because he had got off the train and then he got on the train, perhaps to find us, or to find his wallet. Anyway, because he didn't know we'd got it. But that was a happy outcome. On another occasion,
it makes you feel good.
Oh, it does. On another occasion, when I left my bright red suitcase on a train, then because of the different bloody train companies, this train company runs that line, this train company does that. So I spent about 2 or 3 hours going all around by train to all these different train operators trying to find my bloody suitcase. None of them had any idea whatsoever where it was. And despite the fact that the train that I'd been on had had a full security clean, this bright red suit, and this was at the heightened time of sort of anti-terror alert or something, this red suitcase, just by coincidence, I was going home on the same train that I'd arrived in, which had done a real round trip, including staying for about an hour at an airport, and had been security swept and everything, and the bleeding red suitcase is still up there in the luggage rack. I was very happy to get it back, but that made me wary of going through lost luggage channels to return lost luggage to return it. And then another time, I lost my iPad, didn't I? So you see, so kind of my belongings and I often get parted. And very often we get reunited in quirky ways, and that was because somebody's business card or something was in the case of the thing, so they rang him and it got onto me, and then we had a long drive, didn't we?
Yes.
That was in the early stages of our friendship here, relationship thing, and still.
That's pure love, driving you all the way just for an iPad.
I know. We gave a nice box of chocolates to the lady who returned it, and she said, because she had her phone returned recently by somebody directly to her, because sometimes in the old lost property system these things evaporate, shall we say? I mean, it's not nobody nicks them, but it's just so bureaucratic and everything that they end up at the bottom of a filing cabinet or something. Hello, Margarita. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's good to have you on board. we're about to get to the point in the proceedings, because I promised Ilma that we'd do a short one today. So we're about to get the, because we're going to practice our Morse code later, which we were practicing the other day. You don't remember? Oh, we'll talk about that later then. We did. Absolutely. You were actually replying to me about it. But it was it was a passing sort of conversation in the midst of lots of other stuff going on. But anyway, today's questions, which we're going to drill down on now, and it's Penny from Hampshire, and Penny from Hampshire says, as this is a global pandemic, how much is the government working with other countries to find solutions to vaccines, tracing apps, etc., rather than everyone working on their own solutions? And that's an interesting one, isn't it, really? What's happened to that government app? Because they're going a bit quiet about it. So I did hear that quite a lot of people have been fined by when they used the government app and found they'd been moving around. I'm just going to Google this now. UK COVID UK app. And we'll see what the latest is, because they certainly should have abandoned it by now.
What about if they put like a WhatsApp group together, all the governments, and just put all the data? Hey, what's happening? Don't know.
Yeah.
Neither.
The app, it would seem, is still going strong. But then, the Daily Telegraph said 12 hours ago, NHS contact tracing app. How does it work, and where can you download it? A good question. And Al Jazeera, who like trying to embarrass the UK whenever possible, but they're a great news outlet who use a lot of ex-BBC journalists. They say UK contact tracing phone app against coronavirus to miss deadline. There you go. Well, we're not. The EU had a lot of stuff going around, masks and that kind of thing, which they'd sourced. And despite the fact we'd had the email, we pretended first of all that we hadn't had the email. It turned out that we had the email, but we just didn't sign up for it. So no, we're missing out. But yes, we sent a plane to Turkey to get some masks that were defective. We're not doing very well. And when independent manufacturers have contacted the bureaucrats to say, here, we'll make you 10,000 masks a second, the bureaucrats either haven't responded to them at all or going, no, it's all right, because it doesn't meet our specification. So whether there is, and I'm not suggesting there is, but whether there is some kind of cartel going on where all the profits are recycled to people's mates and nobody else can muck in, I couldn't possibly say. But we're doing a pretty poor job, I would say, on that kind of stuff, in my opinion, which is only an opinion. Take it or leave it. I hope you'll take it. Question number 2. I bet they didn't give that answer from the podium, unless it was the guy who did the tweet, and he probably would have done, but then he'd have been sacked. Kate from Woking. Our school has decided it's not possible to accommodate children of critical workers alongside reception, Year 1 and Year 6. Will the government, teachers' unions, and head teachers work together to find a plan that will provide for all children at home or in school in September? Ooh, and I wonder whether that's been prompted by the general return to schooling on June the 1st that the government has been mooting. We need to look after our key workers. Some of them very obviously will have children, so we've got to do something about it. Otherwise we'll all either starve or die if the shopkeepers can't be in the shops, or the doctors and nurses can't be in the hospitals. It's pretty bleeding obvious. It should be right high at the top of the agenda, even ahead of defending Dominic Cummings, if I may say so. I didn't say that. That was him down there. Anyway, we must agree perhaps to disagree on that one. Now, anyway, I spun so far forward that I completely lost my place on here. So let us go back to some stuff. And you know, we broke precedent, was it yesterday, when we quoted something from the Super Solar Sun, and I use that term ironically. And now we've got 2. It's like buses when you're waiting for a bus for a day, and then 2 come at once. And we dug up a Sun article, and now we've got 2 articles from the Sun. And you know, let's not knock them. Actually, the Sun do have very good headline writers, because Freddie Star, Ate My Hamster, or Gotcha are certainly headlines that people remember. A very good evening to you, Paul. Thank you for joining us. So Labs scandal, says the Sun on its website. So I don't know if it's on the front page or not, but they got they said it says scientist says coronavirus uniquely adapted to infect humans, and Wuhan lab must be probed over claims it links the virus. Is this an old story or a current one? It certainly came up at the top of the. It is a story from today, but. The possibility that it leaked from a science lab, which would tie in what we were saying earlier about the science lab issuing a denial on a Chinese state television, but they would, wouldn't they? We don't know. You probably will never know, because there'll be such a lot of whitewash and cover-up and everything, and they did scrub down that market. So any traces of any evidence as to where it came from, I think, are long gone, and I think our chances of having an investigation and getting the truth is about the same chance that you'd get that the Warren Commission would have produced the right answer about who killed JFK. Bit tricky. So it has been suggested. This is Professor Nikolai Petrovsky, who headed the Australian team and said the virus was not typical of animal to human infection, as it had the exceptional ability to enter our bodies immediately. This is controversial. Most scientists, my understanding is that most scientists have said it's very likely that it originated in animals and then jumped across to humans. And Mr. Professor Petrovsky is a professor of medicine at Flinders University in Adelaide, and he heads up a research unit which is going to start human trials for an Australian vaccine next month. And yeah, interestingly, it's just his basic thrust of his argument is that normally when a pathogen crosses over from humans, from animals to humans, that it then strengthens up its ability to do all this sort of thing. But in terms of the mutations they've seen in COVID-19, in the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which causes COVID-19, he's saying it hasn't mutated enough, and it looked pretty fit for purpose at the point where the pandemic started. So that's quite interesting. So that story's going to rumble on, I should think, for some time.
It makes you wonder, because it's such a perfect the way he really attacks the weakest point in the host. So I don't know. There is a lot of conspiracy theories there, but what is for true? It's that governments have been studying bats and viruses, because my brother himself, he was collecting, no longer with us, bless him, he passed away, but he did work for a government, not Mexican government, and studying bats. So we don't know.
You know, why would governments study dangerous pathogens that haven't yet sort of escaped into the community and not an immediate threat? It wouldn't be to create bioweapons, now would it? No. Because they're fine, honourable men, our leaders. They really
Who
are.
knows?
God bless them and God love them. And the same thing with they wouldn't, would they, do nuclear power so as to build weapons? They just do it to produce clean energy. Yes, that's true. Okay, so moving on swiftly, testosterone. I told you we'd be talking about that sooner or later, but I didn't explain. I told Irma just before we went on. I didn't explain the context. But testosterone could be behind higher corona death rates among men, says Alex Winter. Not.
Is it high testosterone or low testosterone?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine that men would have high testosterone and women would have low testosterone, but that's based on my sort of limited understanding of the biology there. And the men are the ones dying. So yeah.
What I meant is that it's like hormones. I mean, we don't have the same amount of hormones.
No, we don't.
There's some menopause and pause, and
I don't look, but to be fair, I don't have as much estrogen as you, so kind of it balances out, you know. But you know, and there we are, and vive la différence. But according to the Sun, and I quote, baffled scientists, that's very Sun speak, isn't it, have suggested that the reason for the difference could be men more likely to smoke or the possibility of genetic differences. However, it's now believed the true reason could be a sex hormone. The Daily Mail reports. So we got a second-hand report that, you know, some scientists have done a paper. The Daily Mail has written some kind of article, and then the Sun has quoted that. So this is probably so far away from the truth as to be thinking that it's daytime now, which last time I opened the windows it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, now there is a reason though, because apparently they think that testosterone. We're going to have to look at the original paper later tonight, but they think that testosterone drives up the levels of a protein called TMPRSS2, which is significant in some cancers. So we shall have to think whether we'll see what it. We'll see what transpires, but apparently there are some scientists in LA at the University of California who are looking at testosterone blocking drugs to see if they can help in COVID-19 therapy for patients. But basically, we so don't understand this virus that we'll try anything. We'll try malaria drugs. We'll try anything, and I'm going on as I mentioned before, vitamin D, turmeric, and vitamin C. And yes, I'm a bit nutty, but there are valid reasons for so doing. Like turmeric's an anticoagulant, and COVID-19 in some cases causes blood clots. Hello, and vitamin D.
Anti-inflammatory. Which is the same thing, yeah. Along those lines.
It's not the same thing. Anticoagulant stops blood clots. Anti-inflammatory stops inflammation. Turmeric is both of those things.
Oh.
Turmeric is really nature's, panacea. It's nature's cure-all, and that's why, despite its disgusting taste, bleh, even in curries, I would fish out the bits of turmeric and put them straight in the bin. But despite that, it's very, very good for us. And so not everybody. Vive la différence. We're all different. Different people like different things. Good evening, Kevin. Thank you for joining our little entertainment madhouse again this evening on this bank holiday Sunday. Although the bank holiday is Monday, isn't it? Really, but it'll be Monday in an hour or two.
Bank holiday weekend.
It's the bank holiday. It's a long bank holiday weekend, and super lovely it is too. And yeah, well, we've dealt with the sun. That's done and dusted. And we didn't talk about this. There was a couple who've just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, which is ever so nice. And they were due to go to New York. They were going to fly out on the 9th of this month and sail home on the Queen Mary 2. But yeah, they've not quite been able to do that. But their family stepped in and helped with some online tours, some dinners and some photo mock-ups, with Photoshop, I guess, of what it would have been like and the places they would have been seeing. But in your case, would that make you more frustrated or less frustrated? Because you're due to see the Hanging Gardens of Babylon or something, and somebody photoshops you into a photo of them, albeit in a well-meaning way.
Well, I think being in captivity.
It is. You're with the monkey in the zoo.
Being in captivity, you kind of rekindle the relationship with your family or with the people you are with, even if it is in a Zoom call or WhatsApp call or etc. etc. But if you make it interesting, everything is in the mind. I mean, you can create that kind of buoyancy that being in the actual site will give you. You can let you have your mind wander, your imagination wander, and just make stories about it. If you have younger children, you can make stories as you go along, and if you are older, as the same. You can get back to how positive your brain was. I mean, because nothing is impossible for a 5-year-old kid to accomplish. I mean, there's always a challenge, and you got to run until we hit the teenage years, in which it's like, and then that's what happens. So yes, if I want to make it entertaining, yes, in fact, we can go to the Musée the Louvre. Yeah,
we can go to the Louvre. Yeah. That would be mightily entertaining. Oh yeah, Flatulence Friday. I can just imagine it now. It's gonna be a whole hoot of a thing. Yeah, some good ideas. Some good ideas there. But what can we say? Wow. I mean, yeah, it's the way I tell them, isn't it? I normally try to time
Let's
those.
go to Paris.
We will, yeah. Paris, Texas. I try to time my funnies really for when Irma is either eating or drinking, because then it's much more funny.
No.
Out comes the food. But anyway, we let slip, didn't we? Let slip one of our little secrets, really, which is that you're the zookeeper and I'm the orangutan. and that straight after these broadcasts, obviously, she gets out the sort of prod, pushes me back in the cage, and I'm locked in for another 23 hours until the next one. But don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, because you were saying about being in captivity. So, what do you got in the little book there?
I have a question for you. You know, you're a DJ and kind of thing, and you really love rock music and music of all kinds. If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
It would be Yngwie Malmsteen, Kevin knows the answer to this, and Ronnie James Dio's cover of Aerosmith's breakthrough song "Dream On." Why? Because it's a brilliant song with fabulous lyrics about being alive, basically, and realizing our full potential. Because Ronnie James Dio had the finest voice of anybody that ever lived, and Yngwie is a damn fine guitarist. So put that on loop for me right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a super question. And can I reveal to the world that your questions are in red or something and the other ones are in blue? This is such a colourful book with red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, blue. I love it. Isn't that nice? I mean, so can I get the angle? May I borrow it for a second? Just
that might be
No, we're not going to give away the secret writing. We're just holding it so you can see the red and the blue. For anybody with freeze frame, now you can probably read my bank account details on there. But I just thought it was lovely, wasn't it? Lovely. That's it's actually very nice. I think I'm going to try and do that. Have you got two pens, or have you got one where you click it and it's red and you click it and it's blue?
It's a habit I have for years.
It's very nice. My grandmother gave me one of those pens and it had about 10 colours in it. I think I've still got it somewhere. It doesn't work anymore, but it was a thing from my late grandmother, so I keep it. All I've got is that and an egg timer, really, to remind me of her. A lovely lady she was. And that's true. It's true. Come on.
What?
Well, you've got you're poised and ready. You've got your bookmark in. You've got it open at the page. And what does it say?
It's about passion. It says it is the soul's duty to be loyal to its own desires. It must abandon itself to its master, passion. This was by Rebecca West. This is for the women in your life, or for a woman who does too much. Many competent women have a difficult time distinguishing between passion and workaholism. When we hear the emerging concern about the lethal effects of compulsive working, we almost always ask ourselves, or justify to ourselves, but what about being passionate with my work? Are you saying that to be passionate about my work is to be a workaholic? I don't want to give up my work. Now, many of our role models for success are people who were willing to be devoured by their work. This is confusing to us. True passion and doing what is important for us does not require us destroy ourselves in the process. In fact, it is when passion gets distorted to compulsivity that it is destructive. My passion feeds me, my addictiveness devours me. There is a great difference between the two. Passion or addiction.
That's terrific. And it's a fine line, isn't it? A very, very subtle distinction.
Yeah, passion and addiction. Sometimes, sometimes you work, not precisely just women, but also men just work for the sake of working without really fulfilling yourself or your family or anything that implies living life well lived.
Yeah, it's about quality, isn't it? Really?
It's about quality,
It's about the quality.
not quantity.
Now, Kevin says, "Dream on," and most excellent choice. Thank you. Kevin is my best friend. He really is. And now, what do you think Kevin's choice might be? Because he's told us, but you can't read it because the thing's in the way.
Okay, which one is it? Can you read it for me, please?
It's I read the news today. Oh boy, A Day in the Life. The excellent song by the Beatles, which is awesome. And if you think the technology that they used to create, you know that song.
Yeah.
And the stuff they did, where, for example, they have a whole orchestra going up the scale randomly. They were instructed for that bit just before John Lennon goes, "Woke up, got out of bed," where the orchestra goes, zoop, and it's a marvelous that whole album is marvelous. So I can.
Do you know what I fancy after we finish the live? Just listening to music and videos. How is
Let's do that. That's a terrific idea. We're going to do that, guys, and maybe you'd like to do the same. I think that sounds awesome. And we've only got a few more things to chat about tonight, and they're kind of at the other end of the scale. Another, this not a 50th anniversary, but a wedding. There's a cancelled Cornish wedding, which was held in a Welsh garden, just the two of us. They were gutted to have their wedding cancelled, and they just held a specially themed celebration, which looks rather nice, at their home in Wales, with lots of roses and that kind of stuff there. And they also ordered some local pasties, cream teas, fudge and cider. And they exchanged rings in front of a great big Cornish flag, which we can see behind them to mark the day. And they were supposed to have had 80 guests, but they were thanked by a local councillor for not. And there's just a little table, and it's just the two of them, and that's rather nice. A bit of bunting
beautiful.
and that kind of thing. We saw some bunting in
We did,
Cambridge today,
I
but
was
then when
just
we went
about-
by later, because we are allowed to do this exercise and going about and that kind of thing, so we went past there later, it had all gone, so we're not quite sure what it was. It was just around the corner. Can't say. But yeah, so this morning they were setting up, and by about 3 o'clock it had all gone. So whatever it was, they didn't spend very long doing it. And
That's right, just a quick cup of tea and a biscuit, and that's it.
yeah, absolutely so, absolutely so. And I think that probably concludes our little soiree tonight. Basically, because we want to go off, and it's naughty, isn't it? But we want to go off and oh, but not just yet, because our friend Jeffrey has just joined us from the other side of the big pond.
Wow.
And so it's a great honour to have him there as well. And Kevin replied to himself and said, including the runoff loop as well, in terms of yeah, that's a very interesting story as well, because I think you mean the thing in the groove in the middle, because on that album, it was a bit later on, wasn't it, that they had the Beatles had a track that went on forever, which was just a sort of because where there's the groove in the middle of the record, they just kind of recorded it so it would go round and round and round forever. So all good stuff, all good stuff. So what have we been doing this morning? We've been berating the government for their because loyalty is normally a good thing. We've been berating esteemed Prime Minister, who's not the most popular guy in town, but who didn't do something that's necessarily bad, but it wasn't necessarily good either. And you know how the press are. So when you're in the public eye, and when you're in the public eye and not very popular, they're going to get you sooner or later. They're just waiting like vultures to swoop.
Yeah.
And then we ran through a few kind of good news stories, and a rather bizarre one, actually, about which concerned basically the fact that the virus is diminishing so rapidly here in the UK that they haven't got enough people to test the vaccine on. So that's a kind of good position to be in, but it's also a kind of bad position to be in if, as some people suggest, there'll be another onslaught either in August, September, or in the winter, which it may do, because that's what flu does. Flu tails often comes back, and nobody's quite sure. Flu, we've had many years to study it, and common cold, many years to study it and not come up with a cure. So
I think the only answer is just to keep on testing, massive testing for a long time, just to see if this thing is gone, if we have assimilated it, and if we did, how long is going to immunize
absolutely.
for. And yeah,
Absolutely.
just testing is the best answer if there's no enough ill people to a vaccine.
Yeah, that is indeed the
I would do
answer.
that.
And having a big padlock on your terribly tall gate isn't necessarily the answer either. But it might be. So each to his own. We've sealed our letterbox. So we all do kind of strange things. I've got 3 bolts about that long going through the letterbox. It looks like Frankenstein when you go there. And I put a little thing on the outside of the wall, just in case the postman kind of coughs while he's putting the letter in. It's probably a bit over the top, but we Brits are known for our slightly eccentric, over the top behaviour, and God bless us. It's what makes us quite unique, and it's not necessarily a kind of a bad thing. And here's a thing that Kevin has sent me, which is ever so kind. 10 things you didn't know about something to do with A Day in the Life by the Beatles. So let's have a look. If it doesn't, if it crashes the broadcast very suddenly, sorry and good night. But if it doesn't, I'll read you about it. 'Cause sometimes when you click on these web pages, because we use very old tech here, it's a miracle that anything works at all. But sometimes when you click on these things, it either starts to play multimedia or does something completely unwarranted when all you want to do was read some little article. Now there's a big arrow on this screen, but hopefully if I don't press it, the bloody video won't start playing. But John Lennon, the master of understatement, apparently told Rolling Stone magazine in 1968, "A day in the life, that was something." It was indeed, and he said it was a good collaboration between Paul and himself, and obviously knowing the respective styles of these two guys in the Beatles, the two protagonists, you can see the influences of both of them, because Paul McCartney is the um-pa-pa, 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 um-pa-pa kind of guy from the Beatles, and whereas John Lennon was more of the da 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 da, about a lucky man who made the grade. That's obviously a sort of Lennon bit. Now, some very, very interesting facts about this. And how long have we got? We've got 10 minutes if we go to the full hour. So with your, I crave your indulgence. Good evening, Jin. The postman always rings twice. He certainly, he certainly does in our house. He could ring 100 times and it wouldn't make any difference. But he's not getting that greasy envelope full of all those viruses particles through my letterbox anymore, which means I don't have to hoover the doormat anymore. So I just go outside, rip the envelopes open, throwing caution to the wind, and they don't come in the house at all, and tip the contents gingerly out. It is a tad eccentric. But look, I'm going to talk about eccentricity then. A few. I won't do 10 things you didn't know about the song "A Day in the Life," but this is a fascinating article from Rolling Stone magazine. There's the death of a friend of the band inspired that best known line in the song "A Day in the Life," which was he blew his mind out in a car, and so there was the 21-year-old Tara Brown, who was heir to the Guinness fortune and a friend of the Beatles, sadly died in a car accident in December 1966, and that turned into the song's opening line. And John Lennon would often turn to the newspapers for inspiration, and he drew from tragedy a bit that central concept for that iconic song. And the other thing that I'd like to say quickly about it, I'm not going to go through 10, I'm just going to go through the first two. The song "A Day in the Life" was originally recorded for what was going to be a concept album about a childhood in Liverpool, because they had already done a couple of songs. They'd done "Strawberry Fields Forever," which is a place in Liverpool. They'd done "Penny Lane," which is a place in Liverpool. And when Paul McCartney was doing that carpool karaoke with James Corden, I think they drove past Strawberry Fields and they definitely stopped at Penny Lane and went into the barber shop, and the barber's going, "Ooh, hey, we got a photo of you on the wall." And so extraordinary, wonderful song, and yeah, that's certainly in my top 10. If not, it's not my number one, but it's in my top 10. And I wouldn't mind betting that my choice is in Kevin's as well. Would you have a song that you could put on repeat and listen to again and again all over? Do you think?
I have several songs, also some music.
Would it be
The Boy of Ipanema is a boring one.
the what?
The Boy of Ipanema.
Oh, The Boy with the Banana. I've got a song which we found today, didn't we? And I'll send a copy of that to Kevin later on, by a couple of brothers called Ron and Russell Mayle, and they were in a band called Sparks, who in 1974, I think it was, did "This Town Ain't Big for Love for the Both of Us," and they were kind of fairly novelty sort of pop act, if you like, because I think it was Ron Mayle. He had the sort of traditional wavy hair and all that kind of thing. And the other one, which I think was Russell Mayle, had a very thin moustache and very sinister eyes. So great pop duo, and they come up with a lot of tunes. And they got this new one is really quirky and really funny, and YouTube suggested it. Normally I don't follow these suggestions, but when I saw it was those guys that I remembered from when I was a kid as popsters. And it's a bit of an earworm, and it's a kind of la 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 song, and it starts with the history of the lawnmower. So yeah, but anyway, we have said enough, and it is probably time to close this chapter. And I'm going to go back in the cage with a couple of bananas that the keeper will push through the bars. I hope, if I ask her nicely, but I'll be let out. I'm always let out 5 minutes before the live to get ready. And thank you so much for joining us. But we always end with some wisdom from the wise one here. And so that's what we'd like to do as usual tonight with your indulgence.
Okay. There is no perfect time to get away. Just do it. Get on with living and loving. You don't have forever.
Yeah, both of those things are true, and they're both aspects of the same thing, really.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get on with our living and loving. We're going to just do it, and we look forward immensely to the pleasure of your company next time you're able to join us. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. Until the next time, a very good night to you.